Ireland is one of those places people describe in pictures, and the pictures are accurate. The green is that green, the light is that light, the quiet is that quiet. But a picture of peace and the experience of peace are two completely different things. One you can scroll past, the other you have to live inside. And living inside it does something to you that no picture prepares you for. I arrived here carrying an image. Most people do. Years of photographs and accounts from people who'd visited, all of it layered into something that felt like knowledge, but was really just a collection of other people's highlights. Ireland looked, from that distance, like a place where life had found its correct pace, where the things that mattered actually mattered, where the noise that had become the texture of my daily existence, the performance, the urgency, the relentless forward momentum would simply fall away because this country didn't run at that frequency. I wasn't wrong exactly, but I was incomplete. What I hadn't understood, what you can't understand from photographs or brief visits, is that the peace of Ireland is not a passive thing. It's not something that wraps around you when you arrive and makes everything softer. It's more demanding than that, more specific. The peace here requires participation. It asks you to slow down not just your body, but your entire internal operating system, and that process is not comfortable, at least not at first. The first weeks, I kept waiting for the settling to begin. I'd look out at a landscape that was objectively, unarguably beautiful, and wait to feel what the landscape seemed to be offering, a sense of rightness, of belonging to something larger and slower and more permanent than the life I'd left. Sometimes I felt flickers of it. A walk at the right hour, in the right light. A moment in a pub when the conversation moved somewhere unexpectedly real, and I thought, here, this is what I came for. But those moments were islands. Between them was the actual daily texture of being somewhere new, which is rarely poetic and almost never peaceful in the way the word suggests. There's a version of Ireland that exists in the imagination of people who haven't lived here. It's a version I held myself, and I don't say that critically. It's built from real things. The landscape is genuinely extraordinary. The culture genuinely values slowness and connection in ways that most modern Western cultures have mostly abandoned. But there's a gap between knowing that intellectually and experiencing it on an ordinary Tuesday, when you're tired and slightly lost, and the social codes of a new place still don't sit naturally in your body. Irish social life operates on frequencies I had to learn to hear. The humor, and this is essential, is a particular art form. Dry, layered, deeply ironic, often affectionate through the mechanism of gentle mockery. I grew up somewhere where sincerity was more straightforwardly expressed, where warmth announced itself clearly, where saying what you meant was considered a virtue. Here, saying exactly what you mean can sometimes read as lacking subtlety. The meaning tends to live between the words, in the pause before the response, in the quality of the silence that follows a statement. Learning to read that took longer than I expected, and while I was learning, I was misreading constantly, taking jokes seriously, missing the warmth underneath an apparently neutral expression, failing to catch the register of a conversation, and responding slightly wrongly. None of this was ever pointed out to me directly, and that was its own kind of loneliness, the loneliness of not knowing where you'd gone wrong, because no one in this culture considered it polite to tell you. The daily routine accumulated its own specific weight. The mornings were fine. There's something about Irish mornings, the quality of the early light, the particular sound of the country waking up that has never stopped being beautiful to me. But beauty is not the same as belonging, and belonging takes time in ways that no amount of appreciation for the landscape can accelerate. I'd make coffee in a kitchen that was mine on paper but not yet mine in feeling. Walk streets I knew the names of but not the stories behind. Shop in places where nobody had yet accumulated the small knowledge of me that makes a place feel inhabited rather than just occupied. Every day I was building context from scratch. Every interaction was a first draft. And the cumulative weight of that, of being perpetually new, of having no history here yet, created a tiredness that had nothing to do with how much I'd slept. It looked from the outside like I was living in a postcard. From the inside, it felt like a long, quiet exam I hadn't quite studied for. Something started to shift around the 3-month mark. Not dramatically, nothing about Ireland is dramatic, but measurably. I started to notice things differently. Not just the landscape, though, that deepened too. I started to notice the internal landscape, the particular shape of my own thoughts, when the external environment was quiet enough for me to hear them clearly. I'd spent years in a kind of cognitive noise that I'd mistaken for productivity. Always processing, always planning, always running some background calculation about whether I was doing enough, becoming enough, moving in the right direction fast enough. It was so constant, I'd stopped experiencing it as noise. It was just the sound of my own mind, as unremarkable as traffic to someone who lives near a motorway. In Ireland, without the external stimulation I'd relied on to match and justify that internal pace, the mismatch became audible. I could hear myself thinking, and what I heard, once I paid attention, was a great deal of unnecessary urgency. Questions that didn't need to be answered today, being answered today. Decisions that didn't require speed, being rushed through because speed felt like competence. A background anxiety with no specific object, just a general low-level alarm saying, "You're not doing enough, you're not moving fast enough, something important is happening somewhere, and you're missing it." In Ireland, that alarm lost its authority, not because the country talked me out of it, but because the country's own rhythm was so consistently, patiently at odds with it, that eventually, gradually, the alarm started to seem like the strange thing rather than the silence. I started sleeping differently, thinking differently, having different kinds of conversations, slower ones with more space in them, where I wasn't always managing toward a conclusion. And here's the thing I didn't expect. Some of what I'd been rushing past turned out to be worth stopping for. Not profound things necessarily. Ordinary things. The quality of a particular afternoon. A conversation that didn't go anywhere but was somehow, quietly, exactly right. The specific feeling of walking somewhere without a destination and finding, at the end of it, that you feel more like yourself than you did at the beginning. Ireland didn't fix me. I want to be clear about that. It didn't resolve anything or heal anything or provide answers to questions I'd been carrying, but it changed the conditions inside which I was living. And different conditions produce different possibilities. I am, I think, a slightly different person than I would have been had I stayed where I was. Not better necessarily. I don't think places make you better or worse, but different in the way that matters. More present to my own life, less certain about things that probably didn't deserve certainty. More comfortable with the pace of things I can't control. Ireland still looks peaceful from the outside. I see the photographs people share, the way visitors describe it, the image that travels across the internet, and I recognize it. It's not wrong. But I also know now what the picture doesn't show. The specific quality of a Tuesday evening when the novelty has worn off and the belonging hasn't quite arrived yet. The loneliness of learning a new social language in your 30s. The strange, productive discomfort of a country that doesn't rush to meet your expectations. And I know what none of the photographs can capture. The internal shift that happens when you stop fighting the pace and start actually living inside it. The way the quiet stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like space. The way the peace, once you stop waiting for it to arrive and start noticing it was always there, is nothing like what you imagined. It's better. Stranger, more demanding, more honest. Living here feels different from how it looks. And I think that difference is the whole point. If this video named something you've been feeling, that gap between the image of a life and the actual experience of living it, this channel is for that conversation. Not the postcard version, the real one. Subscribe if you want more, and leave a comment below. Tell me, has a place ever looked one way from the outside and felt completely different from the inside? I'll read every single one, and I'll be here.